MeMonster.
Chapter 61. Han Yu-hin and Sung Yun-jae. Both of them were staring at me. Yu-hin's expression clearly said, "Why don't we talk separately?" while Sung Yun-jae was silently urging me to spill whatever was on my mind. I sat there for a moment, holding off on speaking before finally opening my mouth. It might seem like an unexpected topic, but what do you think about the awakening centers? The awakening centers. Their expressions said it all. They were wondering why I was bringing that up all of a sudden. Yes, there are about 3 months left until the official announcement, right? I assume they're probably in the middle of installing the internal facilities by now. If it's possible, could you tell me a bit more about the facilities at the centers? Of course, it wasn't like I didn't know. The news had been all over it, repeating detailed explanations endlessly. The two of them exchanged glances for a moment before Sung Yun-jae spoke up. The key feature of the awakening centers is the A-rank item, the fantasy maze. It's a mental-type item that creates illusions indistinguishable from reality for its target. But like most mental-type items and skills, it doesn't work well if your willpower stat is even slightly above average. Even with an E-rank willpower stat, people tend to notice the discrepancy. However, for non-awakened individuals, it allows them to experience realistic threats in a safe environment, which can trigger their awakening. The method used at the awakening centers is simple. They show the participants an illusion of being attacked by monsters to trigger their awakening. While there were cases of psychological trauma, it was a relatively safe and reliable method. And naturally, most people who awakened this way ended up with combat-related skills or combat support skills. After all, the awakening was triggered by the need to survive a monster attack. It takes an average of 17 minutes per person to awaken, and because of the potential for mental strain, there's a time limit of 30 minutes. The association currently possesses 5 fantasy mazes, each capable of creating illusions for up to 30 people at a time. So that means around 150 people can awaken every 30 minutes? Not everyone will awaken, so the actual number will be slightly lower. But the initial plan is to start with about 1,000 people per day, with the goal of increasing that to 3,000 within 6 months. Even if only 1,000 people awaken per day, that's 10,000 in 10 days and 30,000 in a month. If the ratio remains the same as in the future I knew, 1 in 100 of those 20,000 people would qualify as hunters. That's 200 new hunters. And didn't it only take about 2 days for them to reach that initial 1,000 people? Under public pressure, the number quickly increased to 3,000 or even 4,000 per day. They didn't even close on weekends. I still remember the headlines from that time. Awakening centers surpass 100,000 awakened in the first month. That meant 1,000 rookie hunters had emerged in just 1 month. As someone who was at the center of that chaos, I couldn't help but frown. Don't you think that's too many? The dungeons are already being managed safely as it is. Even if there are 30,000 new awakened people every month, only about 10 of them will be worth anything. So, in practical terms, it's not that many. Yeah, I guess that's true. From his perspective, you'd have to be at least B rank to be considered useful. Even in society, you're only recognized as a hunter if you're at least C or D rank. I, as an F rank, am also stuck with the stigma of being a mere F rank. So what's the point in arguing further? Still, hundreds of people will be earning hunter licenses every month. That means a flood of new lower-ranked hunters will be entering the dungeons. It would actually be a relief if those with mediocre stats gave up on becoming hunters. But that wasn't the problem. It was the ones who didn't give up. Especially in the early days of the awakening centers, almost no one gave up. People around them would encourage them, and the media only talked about the success stories. The quality of training will inevitably decline, and there will be a shortage of low-grade items. At first, the awakening centers didn't offer any support funds, or even a basic program. Initially, there was a week-long training program similar to the old ones, but it quickly shrank to 3 days, and finally it was reduced to just 1 day. "I understand what you're worried about, Hyung," Yoo-hin said. Sung-hyun Jae, who had been interlacing his fingers, also lightly unclasped his hands and lifted them. "Amateur hunters will flood the market, and they'll rush into dungeons unprepared, leading to a lot of deaths. But Han Yujin, there's nothing we can do about that. The idea that anyone can easily become an awakened is an appealing one." That's true. Just looking at the endless lines of people camping outside the awakening centers for days shows how attractive that idea is to people. But then we restrict it just to a select few. For safety's sake, a daily limit of around 100 people would be ideal. That would mean about 30 new hunters a month, which could be managed safely. But if you reduce the number to a mere 30th of the center's full capacity, the initial surge in public support will plummet. So it's a political issue. You can't just lie and say only 100 people a day are possible in the first place. There are already too many hunters who know how the fantasy maze item works. Plus, even if the official awakening centers limit the numbers, once the method becomes public knowledge, private awakening centers will undoubtedly pop up. While the association regulates C-rank and higher mental type items and skills, do you really think everyone will follow those rules? In the end, there's no way to stop the flood of unprepared lower-ranked hunters.
But if so many people end up getting injured or dying, the social repercussions will be severe. Even the large guilds could get caught up in it. That's exactly what happened. We're aware of that, which is why we plan to offer a scapegoat, Yoo-yan said. A scapegoat? MKC immediately came to mind. In the original timeline, they had survived for about 3 more years. So was this what those two had been scheming about? Using MKC as a sacrificial lamb? Hyun, it was originally me and the Hyun Guild that got caught up in that mess. Of course, Hyun didn't go under, but 3 relatively large guilds were used as scapegoats, if I remember correctly. The government and the association shifted the blame to these guilds instead of taking responsibility themselves, with sensational articles blaming the guilds for monopolizing easy dungeons, not supporting new hunters, and exploiting lower-ranked hunters. I don't remember the details since I was too busy getting beat down myself, but that's the gist of it. MKC would make a fine punching bag. Besides, even without the election considerations, there's still a need for the awakening centers to produce a large number of awakened people, Sung-hyun Jae added. Dungeons may be safely managed for now, but we don't know how long that will last. As you know, the proportion of high-ranked hunters is extremely low. To produce enough high-ranked hunters from such a small pool, there's no choice but to create a large number of lower-ranked hunters. Yoo-yan then elaborated further. What the government and the association want is more high-ranked hunters. The industries related to dungeon byproducts are developing rapidly, but the most valuable byproducts mainly come from high-ranking dungeons. Even though the high-ranking dungeons in the country are being managed well, not all of them are being cleared right on time, except for a select few with exceptionally valuable rewards. That's because there aren't enough high-ranked hunters. Those unscheduled dungeons are a waste, and soon we'll be able to bid on overseas dungeons in countries that aren't managing their dungeons and hunters properly. So they want to increase the number of high-ranked hunters as quickly as possible. The two of them seem to believe that a little sacrifice now would pay off in the future. Well, they're not wrong. The first year or so was chaotic, but things gradually stabilized. As the number of high and mid-ranked hunters increased significantly, the dungeon industry grew even further. A sigh escaped me unconsciously. Hyung, don't worry so much. If we can get people to lose interest in the awakening centers on their own, and if we can find high-ranked awakened faster than the centers, then there won't be a problem. Sung Hyun-jae's gaze shifted slightly, showing a spark of interest. Meanwhile, Yu-yan looked utterly flustered. "Wait, Hyung, what are you planning?" "It almost sounds like Han Yu-jin is saying he can do that." "You heard right." "Foond! Hyung!" Yu-yan jumped up from his seat. It seemed he had a hunch about what I was going to say. Judging by his expression, he looked ready to grab me by the collar and drag me out of there. I was glad I'd brought this up in front of Sung Hyun-jae. "Calm down and sit down. I was planning to reveal this anyway." "But the young master's reaction is only making me more curious about what this is all about." "It's not a big deal. I'm planning to set up a special awakening center." I gestured for Yu-yan to sit back down as I spoke. He glared at me for a moment, before reluctantly taking his seat again, though his lips were pressed into a thin line. Clearly, he was sulking. "A special awakening center?" "Yes. As the name suggests, it's a center that specializes in awakenings for those with special skills. The association's awakening centers can only produce combat-related awakenings for now." "Is that even possible?" "Yes. My skill allows me to identify an unawakened individual's awakening potential and their optimized initial skill. Once you know what the optimized skill is, it's not too difficult to trigger the awakening accordingly." "Is that how you found Park Urim?" "Let's just say it was a coincidence before I acquired the skill, for the sake of my credibility. Besides, discovering an S-ranked hunter is always a bit of luck, isn't it?" "So the plan is to draw people away from the general awakening centers and towards your special awakening center instead?" "Yes. It's simple. We'll limit the number of people the special awakening center can handle to around 100 a day. We'll also emphasize that if someone awakens at the general awakening center, they might miss out on their true special skill. Of course, depending on the circumstances, there's a chance of acquiring it as a level 10 skill. But that's not easy to do. To level up, you have to clear dungeons, which naturally means focusing on combat abilities. So, most people end up with combat-related skills as their level 10 skill as well. There's still plenty of time before the awakening centers open, so I plan to start gathering people with special skills beforehand. Ideally, people with low stats but high special skills. Most awakening center participants are F rank. These people would have become ordinary F ranks if they had gone through the general awakening process. But by awakening with a skill that matches their aptitude, they've become C rank or even B rank. That's the story we'll tell.
General awakening centers? You're burying your hidden potential. You could become a B rank or even A rank and beyond. Look at this SS rank blacksmith with an F rank hunter background. Of course, you want to be an awakened, but a rash decision could cost you the chance to acquire an SS rank special skill that would make you world-renowned. Something like that. Even with a 100-person limit, there will still be plenty of impatient people. Once we have enough data and establish a system, we'll announce plans to increase the capacity of the Special Awakening Center. I'll quickly identify people's skills, and the rest will be handled by other staff members. That should help buy some time. It only takes about 10 seconds to check someone's status window. If we digitalize the process, I could identify over 100 people per hour, and only about 1 or 2 in every 100 would need special counseling for their unique skills. If we can prevent the initial rush, things shouldn't get too out of hand. We'll also keep the general awakening centers limited to 1,000 people per day, and make sure they strictly adhere to all public holidays, and have everyone clock out at 5 p.m. sharp. Actually, let's go all out. Make it a 10 to 4 schedule with a 2-hour lunch break. That's a cushy job. If we're going to do that, we'll need to throw the association a bone or two. They can set up shop in high-traffic areas. I'll help them find high-ranked awakened. There are special skills that could be lost if people go through the general awakening process. Just look at me. How tempting is that? should I even throw in some overseas trips every now and then? With that much, I feel like I'm the one who should be getting something in return. The Beast Tamer skill. Although it doesn't actually exist, just one more like it would rival a new S rank. And what about Myung-woo? Among the masses of F ranks who would have been lost in the general awakening process, there could be extraordinary talents hidden away, and I'm the one who will go through the trouble of digging them up. If the government and the association have any sense, they should be running public service announcements telling people to visit the Special Awakening Center first. That does make sense. Song-yeon Jae chuckled softly. Yoo-hyun laid out a deep sigh as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. I like it. There might even be some perks that come our way. Especially those overseas trips. That's too dangerous. Yoo-hyun chimed in as he frowned. Even I thought the overseas trips were going too far. I got carried away while talking. Let's stick to sharing domestic awakening data. We'll take turns on a first-come, first-served basis. Leaving it to chance, huh? Anyway, we should set a date to have a proper discussion about this. Now, if only there was a way to keep Breaker and Han Shin out of it. Greedy mister. Personally, it's better for me if those two get involved. Oh, and I plan to include support for lower-ranked hunters as part of the payment for raising their monster mounts, both domestically and overseas. Both of them looked surprised. It's not like I can take money with me when I die, so why not use my rewards to do a bit of charity? Proper education and well-maintained gear could save lives. If it's something I can easily do, there's no reason not to. Follow me back on SNS, boss. Goblin appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Oh, and here's a gift. With her cheerful voice, she handed me a stuffed animal. It was a red-haired creature similar to a fox with a gold horn. Wait, Peace? That's the 30-centimeter standard version, and mine is the 50-centimeter limited edition. Standard version limited edition? What is this? Judging by the tag, it looks like it was bought in Japan. Wait, is this... It's a Peace doll. Isn't it cute? It's cute, but why did you bring this back from Japan? How can they just sell a doll without permission? Isn't that illegal? They're selling it as a flame-horned lion cub doll, but it's just a little cover-up. I mean, technically they can argue it's a monster doll, so I can't really say much. But those Japanese folks, they'll probably start making chirp dolls too. Goblin kept nagging me to follow her back, so I checked her SNS account. The first thing I saw was a photo of her in a teddy bear costume. Disneyland? I didn't have time to go to Universal Studios. No wonder it took her so long. She had a blast on her trip. It looks like you had fun. Yep, of course, I worked hard too. Goblin handed me a tablet. Judging by her SNS, it looked like she was squeezing in work between sightseeing. Still, when I checked, the data was filled to the brim. She surveyed quite a few dungeons too. Well, as long as she did her job well and had fun, that's fine. That's Chirp, a little rice cake. A marble-drinking, lovesick little rice cake. Ta-da! Look at this. Wait. Why is Chirp suddenly freaking out? I tore my eyes away from the tablet and looked over to see Goblin offering a piece of a mana stone to Chirp. The stone was silver-colored. An A-rank mana stone. Hey, wait! The moment Chirp heard my voice, he hastily swallowed the piece of mana stone. That little glutton! What if something happens to him? Don't give him that. Why? He's eating it just fine. Don't tell me you're starving your little rice cake. Chirp chirped in response, eagerly gobbling down the rest of the mana stone. That little rascal. I quickly picked him up to check him over. His status window hadn't changed, and he looked fine on the outside, so that was a relief. You're an F rank, and you're just gulping down A rank mana stones? What if you get sick? I'm not scolding you. I know it's frustrating, but I'm only doing this because I'm worried about you. Huh? There's so much we don't know about monster biology, so we have to be careful. We don't even have proper treatment methods.
You don't understand a word I'm saying, do you? Well, what can I expect from a baby monster? And you, Goblin, you can't just go around handing out A-rank mana stones. You also shouldn't be feeding other people's monsters without permission. You need to ask first and get the okay before giving them anything. Got it? And this goes for any other monsters, pets, or even children.
You sound like my grandmother.
Grandmother? What grandmother? Don't tell me this brat's keywords will turn me into a grandmother now, after the whole grandfather business. Anyway, now I'm fully prepared to reel in Siak Hayan.
Chapter 62. You finally got back to me. Can I start getting my hopes up? Sukayan's eyes sparkled as she sat down in the chair opposite me. Today she was dressed in a vibrant long dress, the kind you might see at a summer resort. Large pineapple-shaped earrings dangled from her ears. First, take a look at this. I handed her a tablet containing data on a Japanese dungeon. Her white fingers brushed across the screen a couple of times, and her eyes gradually widened. This is... Her fingers started moving faster, her gaze flitting up and down the screen. After a short while, Sukayan placed the tablet on the table, took a deep breath, and spoke. Is this data thoroughly investigated? It is. I guarantee it. So much data in such a short time, and you've organized it all so systematically. Is there anything that needs to be supplemented? You shouldn't be asking me that. I've barely had the chance to investigate a few domestic dungeons. The Hunter Association hasn't been very cooperative yet. I guess it's understandable, since I'm still not fully prepared for anything. That's why I wanted to set up a research lab. By the way, has the Heian Guild contacted you about the lab? Sukayan nodded. My uncle said he's willing to help out, but I'm not keen on being affiliated with any one guild. I don't want my dungeon research results to be exploited for purely commercial purposes. Not that I think the Heian Guild would do that, but I believe dungeon information should be accessible to everyone, as long as they pay a fair price. That's a commendable mindset. I share that sentiment. But if you produce valuable results, it will be difficult for you to protect them on your own. At my words, Sukayan's brows knitted slightly. Yes, that's true. Do you think it would be better to cooperate with the Heian Guild? That wouldn't be a bad choice, but I have another suggestion. From you, Han Eugene? Yes. You know we're building a monster breeding facility, right? Of course. I saw the construction site on my way here. Ah, could it be... With a bang, Sukayan slammed her hand on the table. I saw it on the news. The monster breeding facility and the adjacent building will be under the protection of 5 guilds for the next 5 years? Are you offering me a spot for my research lab? Sharp as ever. No need for a lengthy explanation. Yes, that's correct. At least for the next 5 years, your safety will be guaranteed. An A-rank hunter will be stationed there, and in case of emergency, you can receive immediate support from the Heian Guild next door. Of course, once the research results start coming out, this won't be enough. On a later level, of course. S-rank hunters will definitely be needed. The Liet siblings would be perfect. They're not affiliated with any guild and have exceptional skills. I've already followed them. After some back-and-forth comments, I'll officially reach out to them. The best option would be a top-tier monster. Monsters are much less likely to be swayed or betray than people. They also won't need to leave for dungeon raids. The problem is that it's currently harder to find a top-tier monster than an S-rank hunter. There are only 2 so far, Peace and 1 more on the way by ship. Guilds that can clear S-rank dungeons wouldn't easily give up the baby monsters they painstakingly obtained. If worst comes to worst, I might attach the one that's meant to be my guardian. Not that it would matter, since there will be plenty of kids flocking around me in the future. For now, it's just Heian, but once other guilds start sending in baby monsters, they'll protect them even more diligently, considering the situation. As much as I hate to put it this way, the kids would serve as a sort of hostage, or should I say monster leverage. More importantly, it's going to be a place where top guilds from around the world will seek out on their own, especially the hunters who mostly tackle high-level dungeons with limited information. Since they'd be visiting as the ones in need, it won't be hard to obtain information from them. I also plan to assist you with that aspect. Furthermore, since the research results will be most valuable to high-level hunters, Sukayan could build connections with them as well. Depending on how you handle it, your lab could expand significantly without my help. Sukayan was frozen. Really? That's true, isn't it? All S-rank hunters will visit at least once, especially if they're entrusted with a top-tier monster. They'll have no choice but to come in person out of concern. Or they'd send multiple A-rank hunters at the very least. I'm honestly not great with that kind of stuff, Sukayan mumbled hesitantly. My grandfather has a lot of connections, so I didn't have to ask for much help even while earning my degree. So negotiating with results in hand, rather than just presenting at research meetings, feels a bit... Well, I'm good at locking myself in the lab for days on end, though. But you made a proposal to me, didn't you? Oh, that wasn't really a proposal. I just went at it full force. And I thought of you as a fellow researcher. Well, you did shout, let's research together, let's collaborate without hesitation. Don't worry, you're not expected to handle everything alone, nor should you. It would be a waste to have Sukayan deal with every little thing. Besides, negotiations should be handled by experts. You're not going to run the lab by yourself, right? Yes, of course. Oh, would you like to see this? Sukayan showed me her phone. The screen displayed a picture of her with 5 other people who seemed to be foreigners. They ranged from her own age to middle age and elderly. This is D-Mate. It's a Dungeon and Awakener research group that's been around for 2 years. A research group?
Yes. I haven't mentioned the data you're providing yet, but if it's all right with you, can I bring my friends along? They'll love it. I looked at the photo more closely at her words. The elderly man with graying hair and the middle-aged woman looked familiar. They were researchers who had worked with Sukayan in Dungeon Persons. I vaguely remembered them from the few times they appeared on TV as representatives with Sukayan. If they're people you trust, Sukayan, they're welcome. That's a bit of a heavy statement. Heavy? It's your lab after all. But you're helping so much that I don't feel like I can just do whatever I want. Oh, and this here is Jaden. He's more interested in Awakeners than Dungeons, so if high-level hunters frequent the place, he probably pay to stick around. Once he hears about it, he'll be up for 2 or 3 days straight looking for Jesus. Sakhayan's face lit up as she introduced the rest of her group. Her voice was as bright as a song. They seemed like a very close-knit team. If I just provide some support, they'll probably manage well on their own. So, there was a research group. Come to think of it, it would be odd if someone with both passion and ability for dungeons hadn't been doing anything until now. Go ahead and take the tablet with you. Is that okay? Aren't you worried about data leaks? It's just some dungeons in Japan after all, and I'd like you to research something other than dungeon generation rules first, like mana saturation. But isn't the generation rule the most urgent? It is, but just for a while. I have something else I need to verify. There's the Liet situation, and the dungeon generation rules might have changed from the original future. I'll check when I meet with the system folks in a few days. This time, I hope they explain everything clearly. When I returned home, I found Yu Myung-woo pacing anxiously in the living room. He was circling the table in the center like he was performing some kind of ritual. Sharpen blades 10,000 times. Progress, 9,839 out of 10,000. There were fewer than 200 left. It would be finished today. Are you that nervous? Myung-woo came to an abrupt halt. His eyes were bloodshot, probably from a restless night. I think I did it too fast. What if I rushed and ended up with some weird D-rank or lower skill? That won't happen, I said firmly, as I took Peace out and went to my room to get Chirp as well. I put Chirp on my head and held Peace in my arms. They both wanted to stick close, which was a bit troublesome. At least Chirp could be occupied with a Mana Stone bottle for an hour or two, but Peace didn't have anything like that. I just hope he doesn't keep asking to be held even after he grows up. But if it's useless, it will be disappointing, right? Don't be too discouraged even if that happens. Of course, he'll get an SS rank skill, but even if the system error ruins it, it won't change the fact that Yu Myung-woo is an extraordinary guy. With the right direction, he could succeed and live comfortably anytime. No, I mean, you'll be disappointed. Me? No, I wouldn't be disappointed. When I said that, his gloomy face turned to one of complete despair. You didn't expect anything, did you? No, it's not that I didn't expect anything. Of course I do. If I didn't expect anything, I wouldn't be waiting to go with you on the last day, right? It's just that even as you are now, Myung-woo, you're already amazing to me. Even if you don't get a skill, I won't be disappointed at all. It's not just me. Yerim raids our fridge all the time, doesn't she? One day, she grabbed me and started with, "Don't ever spread the rumor that Myung-woo is a good cook. We don't even have enough for ourselves." And then went on to talk about the food for over an hour. I'm not sure why she was telling me this instead of Myung-woo, though. Honestly, if you went into the food business instead of becoming a hunter, you'd be a huge success. You might not want to run a full-blown restaurant since it's busy and exhausting, but a cafe would be nice. You could hire people to handle drinks and just make some pastries or cakes to sell. There'd be lines out the door, and you could even open a franchise if you wanted. I could give you a place anytime. I'd be sad if Myung-woo got too busy, so I'd oppose opening a proper restaurant. It would definitely be packed. I appreciate the suggestion, but that's not really something I want to do. Really? That's unexpected. Does he not like cooking? I've never noticed any signs of that. Calm down and let's go. You have to see it through. Yeah. As Myung-woo was heading to the front door, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at me. Whatever the outcome, I'm really grateful. I mean it. So as long as you're not disappointed, I'll be okay too. I won't be disappointed. When I reassured him again, his expression brightened noticeably. We headed down to the equipment management team together. Of course, an A-rank hunter accompanied us, and somehow I ended up carrying Peace along with Chirp. Peace refused to leave my arms. Maybe it's because I've been busy with dungeon runs and other matters recently, so I haven't been paying enough attention. He was stubborn today, so I just brought him along. As a result, the equipment management team members gave us some odd looks, but oh well. I probably should have put Chirp on my shoulder instead of my head, but Chirp isn't great at balancing on my shoulder. The crafting room that Myung-woo had been working in was much different from when I first came. 2 large new shelves had been added, everything was neatly organized, and the lighting had been replaced with brighter ones. The chair in front of the grinder looked more comfortable and better than the previous one. Looks like people have been taking care of you. Myung-woo scratched the back of his head awkwardly.
Yeah, they've been really supportive. One day, Mr. Minsak watched me sharpening blades and asked if I wanted to join the management team. He said the strength issue could be solved with the right equipment. That's the obvious response after seeing him. I told you, you're something else. He managed to smile, albeit a shy one, indicating that his tension had eased a bit. Yu Myung-woo took his place in front of the grinder. I grabbed the old chair that had been pushed aside and sat down. As soon as the power was turned on and the machine started running, chirp, chirp, startled, flapped its wings and tumbled off my lap and onto Peace. After briefly flipping over, it righted itself and tried to jump toward the machine, but I quickly caught it. It seemed more fascinated by the running grinder than scared. Stay still. Meanwhile, Myung-woo was skillfully sharpening the blade. His actions were still precise, fast, and fluid, with no pauses in between. Sharpened blades, 10,000 times. Progress, 9,843 out of 10,000. The status window's number climbed steadily. Peace didn't seem very interested, but Chirp was watching the sharpening process with its beak slightly open. I wondered if it understood what was happening. Even if it didn't, it was a mesmerizing sight. Without a moment to feel bored, the number surpassed 9,900. 910, 20, 30. Usually, he would take a break after sharpening 40 or 50 blades, but today, he didn't stop for a second. I was a bit worried that he might overdo it and get sick, but since it was the last time, it should be fine. And finally, clang. The 10,000th blade fell onto the pile of blades on the floor. Progress, 10,000 out of 10,000. The status window's requirement disappeared. I looked at Myung-woo, who had stopped moving.
On the surface, there was no change, but his eyes were fixed on the empty space before him. He was reading a message I couldn't see. Did it succeed? Did it trigger properly? A sense of anxiety I hadn't felt before suddenly crept in. Myungwoo? Please, say something. Then I heard a sharp intake of breath. Thick tears fell to the floor. The machine had completely stopped, and the scattered blades quietly reflected the light. I waited. I didn't have to wait long. The chair screeched as it slid back, and Myungwoo stood up from his seat. When he turned to look at me, his face was bright, without a trace of tears. Confident. Yujin? Yeah? His voice was calm. My voice, on the other hand, wavered. I got an SS rank skill. As soon as he said those words, a smile naturally spread on my face. Even though I had expected it, I felt like I hadn't known at all, and I couldn't help but laugh. I was genuinely happy without having to pretend. Congratulations. I didn't say much. It was enough. As if to say the same, he smiled back.
Chapter 63. I headed straight home. There were too many people just a door away in the crafting room to have a detailed conversation. Chirp, chirp, perched on the table, stared intently at Myungwoo. For some reason, it seemed deeply impressed. I wondered what could be going through that tiny head of his. It's getting late. What do you want for dinner? Myungwoo asked casually, as if he hadn't just acquired an SS rank skill. But it wasn't as if nothing had changed. The anxiety that used to flash across his face at the drop of a hat had completely vanished. Not only was his expression brighter, but there was a noticeable ease in his demeanor and voice. It was like he was a completely different person, even though he looked exactly the same. Given the circumstances, it made sense, but still. Is dinner really the issue right now? I grumbled as I sat on the sofa, holding peace in my arms. Why wasn't he explaining the skill? All I got to see was the skill's name, and now I was dying of curiosity. I thought he'd be eager to talk about it as soon as we got home, but he was way too calm about it. Sit down and give me the details. At my urging, Myungwoo gave a satisfied smile. Surely he wasn't delaying on purpose to make me anxious. Sorry, you must have been really curious. He apologized, though it didn't feel the least bit sincere. He sat down next to me on the sofa. The skill is called Master of the Golden Forge. Like I said, it's an SS rank skill. Forge? From the name, it sounds like a special skill related to crafting. Is that right? Yeah. Myungwoo nodded proudly. So, it was a crafting skill. The name made it pretty obvious, but I had worried that something odd might come out. It's a skill that lets me create items, not just weapons and armor, but anything that has metal in it, including accessories. As long as it contains metal, he can make anything. As expected, it was even more impressive than I had imagined. Myungwoo's eyes moved as if he was reading the skill description in the air. There's no limit to the grade of items I can create. No limit? Isn't that too overpowered? I thought SS rank skills might cap at SS rank items at best. There's no limit, but at my current level, I probably won't be able to make anything above a low grade. There's something called proficiency. Proficiency? Yeah, the higher the proficiency level, the better the chances of creating high-grade items. And the quality of the materials is important too. There's something called the Beginner's Compendium for Blacksmiths, but it only covers up to A-rank items. It says to use it as a reference and to unleash my own power when creating serious items. So instead of limiting the item grade, the skill relied heavily on the user's skill and proficiency. Even after making him grind to unlock the skill, they were still making him grind. But the skill description seems pretty detailed, huh? Even with just a rough explanation, it sounds long. And what's with this compendium? Isn't it a bit too kind? Right? It's much more detailed than the sharpened blade skill. Maybe because it's an SS rank skill? I suddenly wanted to show him the single-line descriptions of my L rank skills. Hey, system folks, isn't this a bit of a disparity?
I can understand the short descriptions for resistance skills, but the My Kid's the Best skill isn't a bit too lacking in detail? From what I've heard, skill grade and description length aren't really related. Look at you here on skill. The description for blue willow leaves was just one line. Creates countless willow leaves to confuse the enemy. That was it. Then, is it because it's a special skill? Just the basic explanation is 5 pages long. The compendium has over 300 pages. Wow, that's really something. They nearly drove me mad with the lack of skill descriptions, but they give Myung-woo a whole book. Weren't they the ones who kept acting like they were interested in me? Was Myung-woo the real target all along, and I was just needed to help him get this SS rank crafting skill? They sure acted friendly for no reason. I feel betrayed. I guess detailed explanations are a good thing. And there's a bundle of materials in my inventory, too. Hey, system folks, isn't this blatant favoritism? You're really just giving him everything. Myung-woo pulled out a small pouch from his inventory. It was about the size of a small shoulder bag. At least they didn't give him too much. It's a subspace pouch. Subspace? It says it can hold up to a ton. Isn't that amazing? Myung-woo marveled. A ton in that small thing. Is it like a backup inventory? There are space-related items out there, but I've never heard of anything like this. Look at this. It's a unicorn horn, an S-rank material. And this here is a piece of a hidden star, an SS rank ore. I'm too scared to use them right now. I think they're all S rank or higher. That's really incredible. It's nice that he got high-grade materials for free, but, well, it's better than not getting them, right? With a ton of S-rank or higher materials, he can quickly build up proficiency and churn out S-rank items in no time. It's a good thing. Chirp, chirp. Chirp, who was on the table, started running toward Myung-woo but rolled off the edge. No, it seemed more like it was aiming for the pouch than for Myung-woo. Did they include mana stones in there too? Mana stones? Let's see. Myung-woo rummaged through the pouch and pulled out a transparent crystal. It was slightly larger than a child's head. Beep, beep, chirp, chirp, peep, peep. Put it back, quickly. Oh, okay. As soon as the crystal disappeared, Chirp, who had been throwing a fit, slumped to the floor, utterly deflated. It looked like he had lost an entire kingdom, not just a gem. It's astonishing how much emotion can be conveyed through such tiny eyes. Peep, peep. Come here, Chirp. Peep, peep. Poor thing. When I picked him up, he went limp like a wet stuffed animal. What was that anyway?
Just an SS rank mana stone? SS rank mana stones were supposed to be white. Did they call it white because it was clear? I've never actually seen one before. Chirp, you need to let go of your greed. I gave you a D rank mana stone today, didn't I? Beep! I'll give you higher grade mana stones when you get bigger. If he ever does grow properly, that is. Due to a bug, taming Chirp failed. I could apply the keyword, but his status window still showed as blank. Of course, I couldn't see his growth conditions, and I couldn't use my Kid is the Best skill on him like a taming skill. Well, it's not really a problem if he stays F rank. It's not like he's a burden to feed. But if he tries to eat an SS rank mana stone like earlier, even the world's richest person would go bankrupt. By the way, my stats went up too. Myung-woo mentioned casually, as he put the pouch back in his inventory. Your stats? But your level didn't go up, right? There's no stat boost effect in the skill or title. Yeah, they just went up when I got the skill without anything like that. Stat grades are determined by comparing the stat values to the level. If the level hasn't increased, but the stats have, that means the grade has gone up. Let's calculate that. What's your average stat excluding magic? Around 21, I think. 21? That's your E rank, and a high E rank. It's almost close enough to be considered D rank. With more growth, he might even reach D rank. I've never heard of a skill increasing someone's stat grade before. So, am I E rank now? Myung-woo asked with a beaming smile. This guy really does have an exceptional number of anomalies. Your stats might be E rank, but as a hunter, you'll be ranked at least B rank,
With more proficiency, you could easily be recognized as A rank. S rank, though, requires the ability to clear S rank dungeons, so that might be tough. It's an unreasonable requirement. Only combat-related abilities can make you S rank. Anyway, now it's time to think about what comes next. What do you want to do, Myung-woo? It was time to consider the future. You're the only one with an item creation skill. And it's an SS rank skill with no limit on item grade. You're an unrivaled presence in the hunter world. It's kind of embarrassing when you put it that way. Myung-woo responded with an awkward expression. It's just a fact. SS rank items are rare. Even when you clear S rank dungeons, you mostly get S rank byproducts, including mana stones, but items are hard to come by, especially weapons and armor. They're so scarce that it's hard to even see one unless you get a first clear bonus. You only get them the first time a dungeon is cleared? They do appear in regular clears, but that's generally the case. So far, only 15 SS rank weapons have been found in the country, and there are no SS rank weapons at all. There were more in 5 years as the number and difficulty of S rank dungeons increased, but even then, there were still fewer than 30 known SS rank weapons. The last I heard was the announcement of the 28th SS rank weapon. There were more armor pieces and small equipment, numbering in the hundreds. Even just making S-rank weapons consistently would make it easy to establish yourself. While not irreplaceable, their rarity is high enough. If you can make SS rank weapons, you'll get more attention than I do. Mounts are just support, but weapons directly enhance a hunter's abilities. Unless you're an outlier like Kang So-young, if you had to choose between a mount and a weapon, you'd pick the latter 100 times out of 100. A weapon means faster dungeon clears and a safer, stronger hunter. There's no need to overthink that choice. And if you somehow manage to create a weapon above SS rank, then you Myung-woo, will be the only person who can elevate an S-rank hunter's abilities. On average, having a full set of equipment 2 grades above your own would increase your practical hunter rank by 1. But there are limits. An F rank with S rank gear would only reach the upper D rank range. The same goes for other ranks. A B rank with a full set of S rank gear could potentially reach A rank. An A rank with a full set of SS rank gear could theoretically achieve SS rank capabilities. But that's as far as it goes. SSS rank gear has never existed before. No one in the world would be able to challenge your status. All the S-rank hunters would be desperate to win your favor. Being chosen by Yu Myung-woo would mean becoming the world's strongest hunter. The first ever SS rank stat hunter. Isn't that amazing? It's the absolute best. Talking about it made me realize it was no wonder they showered him with perks. Without a limit on the grade of items, he could create L-rank items. And then there are wish stones and mythical grade items. Mythical grade gear. Forget SSS, he might make L-rank hunters, since the correlation between equipment grade and hunter rank is only theoretical from S rank onward. Aren't you hyping me up a bit too much? I'm just stating the objective facts. But I think it's impossible for you to go independent right away. The top priority is your safety, and the next issue is sourcing materials. You'll need a lot of practice to build proficiency. You could buy materials and sell the items you make, but it would be a waste of time. Initially, only low-grade items would be produced, and lower-grade items don't sell as well as you'd think. That's because low-rank hunters have relatively lower purchasing power. Plus, there aren't that many hunters yet, since the Awakening Center hasn't been established. So it would be much more efficient to receive support, get tons of materials, and churn out practice items. The easiest path would be to join a large guild. Once they verify your skill, they won't spare any support, and you'll be able to grow quickly. They'll handle all the other stuff for you. You just have to focus on item creation.
That might be the better option for Myung-woo. He'd be more comfortable, both physically and mentally. But if you're not keen on joining a guild and want to set up an independent item workshop or something where you won't be interfered with, I could help you with that. No, I'd like to invest in it. This wasn't like before when I was just helping him out. Myung-woo could go anywhere and be welcomed. Invest?
Yeah, you know I'm planning to leave Heian soon, right? So I'm inviting you to come with me. It's just an offer, no pressure. Being in a guild is definitely more convenient. I'd prefer it if Myungwoo didn't join a specific guild. If he did, that guild would undoubtedly try to monopolize the items he creates, especially anything S rank or higher. It might be okay if the dungeon difficulty and number increased gradually over 5 years as before, but monopolization isn't good in the current situation. Most concerningly, they might try to control the quantity of items produced to maintain their premium status. If you do join a guild, I'd prefer it to be Heian, for my sake. At least if he joined Heian, I might be able to interfere somehow. I could include terms in the contract to prevent excessive monopolization or restrictions on item quantity. If I go independent, even with your help, I'd still have a lot to handle on my own, right? That's likely. All I could provide is a safe place, materials, funding, and connections to the hunters who will come to me. But if you make a few high-grade items, word will spread quickly. Once you produce something S rank or higher, you'll be in control and can operate as you like, though that might be exhausting in itself. You'd need the temperament for dealing with famous hunters lining up and trying to leverage items. If you're timid, that kind of situation could be incredibly stressful. And if you seem even slightly vulnerable, there are bound to be arrogant, brainless types who will try to take advantage. Maybe I should just tell him to join Heian. Just do whatever makes you comfortable. He's been through enough already. I can't ask him to go through more. I honestly didn't expect to get such a great skill. Myungwoo scratched his back of his head. But if what you're saying is true, I could become bigger than a large guild if I just put in the effort, right? Of course. Then there's nothing to think about. One time of sitting idly at home was enough. As he stood up, I felt a pang of guilt. Was he blaming me for not letting him out much? Or was he talking about the time he got kidnapped? If something like that happens again, next time, he trailed off and then smiled. Want to check out my forge? What? I could check it out?
Chapter 64. Isn't that your skill? It sounds like it's something real.
It is.
It is? What do you mean? It's not like it's fire or ice appearing out of nowhere. There's a blacksmith's forge? This is the first time I've ever heard of a skill like that. To be precise, the skill allows me to enter a subspace where the Golden Forge exists. Wow! Wow! What even is that? This is nothing like the skills I'm familiar with. It seems more like an item than a skill. Like the S-rank trap item, the Gingerbread House, or the SS rank defensive item, the Silent Dark Room. Both are special items that appear much later on. But a skill that creates a building? I've never heard of such a thing. Skills are typically intangible abilities. They can gather energy or elements to form simple shapes, but a forge? With a furnace and anvil? Does that even make sense? How do you get in? I asked as I stood up. Just like this. Myungwoo reached out his hand to me. So it's as simple as just deciding to enter? I put peace in his pen and set Chirp down on the sofa. I had some doubts about its stability, but that just made me more determined to follow along. Besides, the effective final recompense had some time left. Can anyone come along? If I want them to. Then it could be used as a hideout, too. Maybe you could even store emergency supplies in there, I said as I took his hand. If the subspace with the forge was safe, it could be an excellent refuge in case of emergencies. As I felt the sensation of passing through a dungeon gate, the scenery before me changed. Sunlight streamed in through a large window, illuminating the interior. The first thing that caught my eye was the flickering flames within a massive furnace. The golden fire burned without consuming any logs or even a single straw, just burning on its own. The walls, incongruously, were made of intertwined tree branches and roots. The air was filled with the scent of wood and fire. Hammers, large tongs, and various other tools hung on the walls. It was an old, traditional blacksmith's forge. In the middle, atop a large anvil, was a bouquet of flowers and a note, quite unexpectedly. What's with that bouquet? No idea. Myungyu walked over to the anvil and picked up the note. There was something written on it, but it wasn't in Hangul, nor was it in Chinese characters or the alphabet. It was a script I'd never seen before. It looks like it's addressed to me. To you, Myungyu? Can you read it? It says, "Welcome, successor. May the blessings of flames and molten metal be with you on your path." So it really is more of an item than a skill. Given that talk about a successor, it looks like some unknown senior left it for him. It says I'm the successor, so does that mean someone else had the Master of the Golden Forge skill before me? Myungyu asked, tilting his head. Hard to say. It's only been 3 years since Awakened Ones started appearing, so it's not like we have a clear lineage of seniors and juniors, and no equipment made by the skill has ever shown up. At least in our world, you're probably the first. As I spoke, I thought of the system administrators. Could one of them have had the Master of the Golden Forge skill in the past? And did they prepare these items for the next skill holder? Was that even possible? Who are those people anyway? The list of things I want to ask them keeps growing. At that moment, Myungyu flipped the note over to check the back. There's something written here too. Ismore? Whoosh! Get back! The flames in the furnace suddenly surged. I quickly moved to shield Myungyu, but instead of stepping back, he stepped forward. Yujin, you should be the one stepping back. Your stat grade is lower right now. Well, Final Recompense is still active, but I can't exactly say that out loud. I've got a protective barrier skill item, remember? The one the Hanshin guild leader gave me? I was going to use it on Myungyu, but you were going to use that on me anyway? When did he become so sharp? But my stats are above B rank right now, so I don't actually need the B rank barrier, but not exactly, but kinda. But look at that flame! The flames have started to take on the shape similar to that of a person. It shifted between a round, childlike form and a tall, adult one, before settling on something in between. Soon, the flames took on a form almost indistinguishable from a human being, though it was clearly made of fire, so no one would mistake it for an actual human being. Isn't that another item? Greetings, Master. Did it just speak? It talks? Myungyu was just as shocked as I was. A talking creature? This was my first time seeing something like this, excluding the system folks, and I've never seen them in person. I am the spirit Ismar, born from the Creator's final breath. There are spirits? I had no idea. I shook my head at Myungyu's question. Were spirits actually real? Spirits like salamanders or sylphs were something you'd only find in games or novels, not in real life. I've never heard of any Awakened Ones with spirit summoning skills. But suddenly, a spirit? What is this? While we were still reeling from the shock, the so-called spirit Ismore looked down at us with its emotionless golden eyes. Was it truly living being? Let's see if promising talent works. I tried using the skill to check, but the status window didn't appear. Instead, information started popping into my head. A fire spirit, very strong, can control fire. It's fully grown. The contractor is the person next to me. What even is this? The information didn't appear in a neat little rectangular window like usual, but was instead conveyed directly to my mind. It felt vaguer compared to reading something written down. How strong is this thing? It feels like it's at least A rank, but I can't get a handle on its skills. Other than the fact that it can control fire at will, I don't know much. And it seems like physical attacks won't work on it.
What the hell is going on? Did the system glitch out? I nervously opened my own status window, but nothing appeared. I couldn't sense anything about my own status either. No information came to mind. I couldn't even tell my rank, level, skills, or titles. It felt like I had suddenly been thrown into a pitch-black sealed room. Myungwoo, can you open your status window? Status window? Myungwoo paused for a moment before his eyes widened in surprise. It's not coming up. Can awakened status get canceled? No, I can't open mine either, but it seems like skills still work. My stats probably haven't changed either. It's just the system window isn't showing up. The inventory. I can't check the contents, but I can still take things out and put them back in. I took out and then put back the bottle of Mana Stone powder. Normally, I could see a list of the contents, but that wasn't showing up now. It's a relief that we haven't lost our skills, but is this space somehow affecting it? That seems likely. Maybe it's because this is a subspace that we're outside the system's influence, but isn't the awakening itself a part of the system? If our abilities remain intact even without the game-like system windows, does that mean the system and awakening are separate? This is getting confusing. Please tell me your name, Master. Ismoir, who had been quietly floating in the air, spoke. Or rather, its mouth remained firmly shut, and only its voice came out. My name? Yu Myung-woo. Yu Myung-woo, would you like to receive the foundational training prepared by the creator? Foundational training? Yes, it's only basic training, so if you're already sufficiently skilled as a blacksmith, you don't need it. However, if you're just starting out, it will help you grow quickly. Whoever this mysterious senior is, they must have been very thoughtful, considering how generously they've prepared for their successor. I wish I had a senior like that. Of course, I'll take it. As soon as Myung-woo agreed, Ismoir's gaze shifted to me. My flames are safe only for the contractor. If you don't have a high resistance to heat, you risk burns or death. Is this workshop okay? It's made of wood. I'll wait outside. All right. Oh, take this with you. Myung-woo handed me the bouquet. It would probably burn if left here. Moments later, I found myself back in the living room, alone. Chirp! Chirp, who had been quietly sitting on the sofa, flapped his wings and greeted me. Peace wagged his tail from behind the glass wall. Judging by their reactions, time seems to be passing at the same rate here and in the subspace. I want to go into a dungeon and get some answers right now, even though I know all I'd get is a "we can't tell you" message or something like that. It's still frustrating, but there are only a few days left. I need to make sure Yu Yan isn't still upset with me before that. He hasn't answered my call since yesterday. He could be busy, but I'm pretty sure he's mad at me. Should I bring him flowers? What kind of flowers are these? I looked down at the bouquet in my hands. There were 5 large blossoms, about 10 medium-sized ones, and a scattering of smaller flowers. None of them looked familiar. I'm not exactly a flower expert, but I'm pretty sure these aren't from this world. The largest ones had a faint glow, and some of the small ones were gold-colored and felt hard and cool to the touch, almost like metal. When I plucked a petal, I found that it actually wasn't metal. The flowers that resembled moth orchids occasionally moved on their own. These definitely weren't ordinary flowers, but they didn't trigger any kind of description window like dungeon byproducts usually do. They are pretty, though. Can you mix this with ice? Yurim, who had brought me some sort of frappe, asked as she glanced at the cup in front of me. It was a mana potion poured into a cup filled with ice. It should be fine. It looks like orange flavor. Aren't you sick of it by now? I am. How could I not be? Even when I first started drinking it, it was just tolerable, not tasty. Now that I'm chugging it like water, it's becoming unbearable. I sighed and looked around. To find B and higher special initial skill holders, we had rented out an entire cafe on the first floor of a building with heavy foot traffic. In addition to Yurim, there were also 1 A rank and 3 B rank hunters. One of the B rank hunters used to work as a cafe part-timer, so they were making various drinks for us. I should try mixing mana potion with coffee. That sounds like it would taste terrible. How about real orange juice? Make it strong. I'm tired of orange too, and apple. Then why not order custom mana potion? That's a good idea. It might be expensive, but if I keep drinking like this for 2 or 3 more days,
I'll get so sick of it, I'll throw up. Maybe I should just gear up with magic boosting equipment. My mana pool is so small that I have to drink it too often. But that would feel too restricting. Besides, it's summer. I grumbled as I turned my gaze back out the window. People were walking along the street. Our target was anyone with a B or higher rank special skill. We couldn't afford to miss anyone with A rank or higher stats either. But we hadn't found anyone yet. Another C rank. It's persuasive eloquence. Ah, isn't that person an EVS middle school teacher? They're pretty famous. Their lectures are really easy to follow. I heard they've been getting a lot of offers from tutoring centers. I guess they found the right calling. There are more C ranks than I expected. Weren't there even more D ranks? Yeah, about half of them had E rank or higher skills. Yurim tilted her head. If they have E rank or higher skills, shouldn't they be able to get a hunter license? But only about 1% of awakened become hunters. That's because most awakened up until now had combat-related skills.
I couldn't be sure after just a brief survey this morning, but it seemed like most people's aptitudes weren't combat-related. I hadn't paid much attention to C ranks or lower before, so I hadn't bothered calculating the ratio. But thinking about it now, it's actually pretty obvious. 100 years ago, maybe, but how many modern people would have a knack for fighting? Especially in our country, which has been relatively peaceful for over 50 years, aside from the military. Hardly anyone ever handles real weapons, unless they're into sports like archery, kendo, or shooting, and even then, it's just a hobby, not exactly a common one either. If more than half the people have talents that are better than average, how many of those talents do you think will be combat-related? Probably not many. Yeah, it's a pretty small percentage when you look at jobs, too. Yerim nodded. Since they were forced to awaken with combat-related skills, most of them ended up as FF rank. As for F rank stats, it's well known that modern people are generally out of shape. If F rank had been broken down into finer gradations like plus and minus, there would have been plenty of F minus folks. It's a little shocking, but there really were a lot of people with valuable talents who didn't even know their own worth. That C rank initial skill holder who just passed by would probably have ended up with an F to E rank combat support skill if they had gone through the Awakening Center like everyone else. That office worker over there has a C rank singing related skill. Remember when we went to the broadcasting station and met those singers with good voices? One of them had the exact same initial skill. Really? Yarim asked excitedly as she looked at the man I pointed out. Should we tell him that he should debut? Isn't it tough to make it as an entertainer just by singing well? Still, it's better than living without knowing your own talent. After taking a long sip of her frappé, she suddenly looked at me with concern. But doesn't it mean things will get harder for you if there are so many E rank and higher skill holders? You might have to help half of the 100 people you meet. Ah, right. I hadn't considered that.
Chapter 65. I think I should only ensure awakening for those with C rank, no, B rank or higher skills, and just give advice to the others. I was planning to hire people to help with that. Actually, if there are that many people, shouldn't the association handle it? I'll just send them the data. Like, hey, there are some optimized initial skills here, and let them deal with it. I only know the skill names anyway. Why do I have to do everything? I'm not doing it. If I only help out the B rank or higher, the association might grumble, but they can count it as my labor cost. Let someone else handle it. Someone else. You're pretty assertive for a guy. Who in their right mind wants to take on extra work? Yerim exaggeratedly widened her eyes. The person right in front of me. That's why the guild leader is giving you the cold shoulder. Yukin? Is he still mad? He's in a really bad mood. Honestly, I get that the guild leader is worried about you, but it's over the top. Even if you pile on a couple of more skills, nothing's really going to change. It's like turning a gold nugget that everyone wants into a bigger gold nugget. It's still something everyone wants. She had a point. Whether people know I can predict awakening grades and skills or not, those who want to mess with me won't change. Yeah, he's overdoing it,
but I still need to calm him down. We're supposed to go into a dungeon together. Hey, why don't you take this chance to set things straight? Tell him to tone down the interference, and then come over to me. What do you mean, come over? You're part of high-end, too. You can go into dungeons with me. I can clear low-level dungeons on my own now, Yerim said confidently. She did mention she's almost at level 30. Maybe I should go with her if Yujin's too busy. Do you have time? I'm an S-rank hunter, remember? I make my own schedule. Just say the word. Hey, you need to think about the other hunters you're working with. Just because you're S-rank doesn't mean you should start acting like that. I'll give him a heads up. When are we going in? Hold on. Let me check with Yujin. I sent him a text saying if he's busy, I'd go into the dungeon with Yerim instead. The reply came quickly. He hadn't answered my calls for the past few days, but now this. No need. I've set aside the time. He says he's coming. Knew it. Yerim made a face like the wind had been taken out of her sails. Go with me next time. All right, next time. And let's go somewhere scenic with a packed lunch. Are we going on a picnic? Well, for low-level dungeons, it might as well be one. After being soaked in mana potion and exhausting myself all afternoon, I finally found 2 people with B-rank special skills. There was also one with B-rank stats who could be a combat hunter. We could have found more if it hadn't rained halfway through. I hadn't accounted for the weather as a variable. Busy areas are fine, but maybe it would be better to go to places that have groups, like at companies or schools, to reduce overlapping checks. Once I present the results of the special skill awakenings, I'll have to formally negotiate with the Hunter Association and the government to do a nationwide tour, limited to once or twice a week. I'm not taking on more work than that. No more. Peace, we're going into a dungeon today, I said as I stroked Peace's neck. It's where you originally lived. Do you remember? Though it probably wasn't a good experience. From Peace's perspective, humans killed his family and kidnapped him. Can Yujin and he ever get along, I wonder? It's not like we can stop dungeon raids. There was even a group advocating for monster rights later. They argued that since dungeons were a natural occurrence, there should be protected areas for monsters outside the dungeons. Ridiculous. Do you think monsters will stay peacefully within the designated zones? We could at least try to coexist if we could communicate with them. But monsters attack humans on sight. Still, my brother's not a bad guy, though you probably see him as the ultimate villain. I'll make sure he treats you well. I held Peace close and patted him. I hoped he didn't remember the dungeon. He didn't act hostile towards Yujin, so maybe he had forgotten. Chirp. As I held Peace, Chirp started circling my feet as if asking to be picked up too. You can't come. It's a D-rank dungeon. Too dangerous. Chirp. No.
I said it firmly, and Chirp seemed to understand, looking dejected. He's been showing more varied expressions lately. He's also started showing interest in things other than food. Stay here and be good. Chirp, chirp. I put Chirp in his basket and headed outside with Peace. I'll be waiting in the parking lot. I texted Yujin and started walking. The hunter standing by the elevator smiled and greeted me. Are you heading down now? Yes, I'm going to wait in the parking lot. Without so much as lifting a finger, they held the elevator and pressed the button for me. I shouldn't get too used to this, but everyone's overly polite. When I reached the parking lot, I saw Yujin waiting. His expression was stiff. He looked kind of sulky. Take care. The hunter, who had come down with me, backed off, sensing the mood. Lighten up. Are you going to advertise that you're mad at me? I'm not mad. Then what? I don't even have the right to be mad. He turned away abruptly. What the hell is he talking about? Is this a late onset rebellious phase? If something's bothering you, talk to me about it. Like you'd actually tell me the truth. Ouch. I couldn't argue with that. But I don't think he'd believe me even if I did. And you don't tell me everything either. Keeping your mouth shut in the name of protection isn't much different. I told you I'm not mad. I'm just upset with myself, so don't worry about it. Sure, like I'm not going to worry. Yujin opened the backseat door for me. No one else was around.
which was probably for the best given the current atmosphere. How long are you going to stay upset? I'm still figuring out what to do about you. Honestly, I know I'm not capable of handling you. I admit that. I also know that meddling in your business is overstepping my bounds. Yu-hyun said as he got into the driver's seat. Hearing him talk like that made me feel strange. I was never anything special compared to my brother. You don't have to put it like that. We're brothers. No matter the circumstances, it's okay to worry about each other. But it's true. I should admit that you're out of my hands, but I don't want to, so I'm acting like this. Don't worry about it. He cut me off and started the car. I don't know what to say. I can't tell him it's okay to keep meddling, but I don't like just accepting it either. And that talk about not being capable? What's so wrong about a younger brother worrying about his older brother, and vice versa? Sure, in my case, it's like a cat worrying about a tiger, but it's not impossible. We reached the dungeon quickly, since it wasn't far. It was a hybrid environment of beach and forest under Hyen's management. The regular monsters appeared in the forest, while the boss monster showed up on the beach. Growl. As soon as a monster appeared, Peace leapt from my arms. The monster, an Olgor that looked like a mix between a monkey and a cat, bared its teeth at Peace. Is there ever a time when monsters get along, like with the tooth moles? Usually not, if they're from different species. In high-level dungeons where different species of similar rank appear together, we often force the monster groups to fight each other. I see. You know a lot. I nodded and glanced at Yu-hyun to try and gauge his mood. I should take this chance to have a proper conversation with him. Ready to talk. Right. A conversation. Wait, hold on. Just as the message window popped up, the surroundings went dark. Then, one by one, tiny lights like fireflies began to appear. Yu-hyun? I couldn't see him, or Peace. Was I in a completely different space? I can't see anything. The lights floated around, but that was it. There was nothing else, just blackness. Hey! If you're going to drag me here, at least say something. As if in response, the lights gathered in front of me, forming a rectangular window. A Hangul keyboard appeared. It looked like a giant smartphone screen. Dear. Hi, darling. Tree. Nice to see you. How have you been? Newbie. Hello. Wolf. Hi, sweetie. Droplet. Can you see this? You can, right? I hope it's showing up correctly. Text appeared in the window, line after line. Is this chat? A chat window? There are 5 of them. I hesitated for a moment before placing my hands on the keyboard. Honey. Hello. What's with this nickname? Can I change it? Is there a settings menu for this chat? Dear. Ooh, our cutie. You made it here safely. Blow me a kiss of welcome. Wolf. You must have a lot of questions, right? Ask if anything. Droplet. Well, not anything. Sorry, honey. Ignore those 2. They're just butting in. The newbie will block them soon. I'll start with the precautions. At least one of them seems normal. Droplet. There's a limit to the information we can provide. The connection between your side and ours is narrow. Normally, it's completely closed off. We've forced the passage open right now, so if the information exceeds a certain amount, the connection will break. Honey, does small talk count as information? Can I use my real name instead of this nickname? Droplet. Small talk is fine. Names are considered information. No. More importantly, we need to keep Honey's identity hidden for now. Honey. From what? Dear. From the one who must not be named. What is this, Voldemort? Droplet. The block hasn't worked yet, I see. But Dear isn't entirely wrong. Names carry a lot of information. If we talk about it too much, the other side will catch on. Honey. Is it related to the dungeons? Droplet. Exactly. The increasing number and strength of dungeons are an act of expanding influence. But don't worry. You only have to do one thing, honey. Honey. You mean raising the S ranks, right? That was the only thing they had asked me directly. Tree. Correct again. Specifically, you just need to apply the keyword and gather exactly 50 people. Droplet. It's okay if you gather more. Newbie. Once you've done that, leave the rest to us.
We can't explain everything in detail, but trust us. Just fill up your skill window with 50 people. That's all you need to do.
Is 50 really enough? Then again, if I apply the keyword and keep boosting their growth, they'll end up much stronger than the original S ranks. Some might even reach SS rank with enough growth.
Honey, can't you change the keyword to something easier?
Something like the old hang in there.
We don't set the keyword. We check your skills and then name and describe them accordingly.
Dear, I named the perfect nurturer title skill. Isn't it perfect?
So you're the culprit.
No, not at all.
Then can you at least give me more detailed descriptions?
Well, honey, there are 2 reasons for that. First, we don't fully understand people's skills or abilities either. It's like discovering a new rabbit, examining it and deciding it has long ears, hops around, eats grass. Let's call it a rabbit. That's about it. We don't have the ability or time to investigate further.
Tree, fortunately, there's already a lot of existing data, so we manage the skill windows as best as we can. But your case, honey, is a real exception.
Yes, the perfect nurturer title is a first.
It's really...
Wolf, really? Get those 2 out of here right now. Sorry for the temporary disruption in chat. Droplet is really going through it, huh?
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.